This is football. I'm Kevin Clark. Guys, Draft Talk. Jordan Reid is here, one of our favorites. Always a crowd pleaser. First round quarterbacks next year. We go through them. Who should come back? Who could play their way into it? We also flick a little bit at 2027. Quarterbacks there, plus some non-quarterbacks. That year is going to be stacked. And then the best players in the college football playoff from a draft perspective. If you're a fan of a bad team, and there's a lot of bad teams right now, some fan base didn't expect to be looking at the college football playoff for top 10 picks, but here we are. We circle 3 names and then mention a bunch more of guys you should be watching all through the rest of this month. This is Football is brought to you by Manscaped. Upgrade your grooming routine with products built for the modern man. Now available at Walmart. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Reid. All right, Jordan Reid is here, one of our favorites, NFL draft expert, football expert. I will say this. I tweeted this a couple days ago, Jordan Reid. I did a lot of travel Thanksgiving weekend, as most of us do. Had to catch some of the games on the radio. And one thing I did not anticipate, I knew you were very good at your job. One thing I did not anticipate is on the radio with college, and you were doing LSU Oklahoma. You are college Tony Romo. You knew everything that was going to happen. Like you clearly, and your play-by-play guy was calling it out about how you needed crystal balls and buying lottery tickets and stuff. You were calling the plays before they happen. Good on you. You're college Tony Romo, Jordan Reid.
I appreciate it. I'm just going to take that as a compliment as early years, Tony Romo. But no, I love calling on ESPN radio. Me and my co-host, Mike Cousins, who does a phenomenal job as well, who's one of the best in the business without question. I call him the Renaissance man because he does every sport imaginable. He could do ping pong if they asked him to, but he's awesome. But this is what I do like during the fall and the lead up to the draft. I love going around the country, going to different venues. My first time in Norman, Oklahoma, it was an outstanding atmosphere, even though the game was not great for them until late in the fourth quarter. But that's pretty much what I do throughout the fall. Honestly, Kevin, call games on ESPN radio, seeing these guys, these prospects that we'll be talking about as well leading up to the draft. All
right, we're going to start here because it's December 9th. This episode's going to come out on the 10th. And I think most people are, if you've got less than 8 wins right now, you're desperate for a quarterback. And I've heard so many people, and we had this on Sunday where I saw both the Saints and the Browns fan base. Shedeur is going to start the rest of the year. Tyler Shuck's looking maybe better than I thought, certainly. It looks like the Bucs defense made him look like Josh Allen on Sunday. He had a 34-yard touchdown run. But a bunch of teams are maybe starting to talk themselves into bringing their quarterbacks back and not drafting. And there were a couple teams that came into the season like, all right, quarterback or bust. Now they're saying, I don't know. And I think part of that is because of what the first round is going to look like. So I want to dive into it, and I want to start here. How many first round quarterbacks are there going to be in 2026?
That's a great question. Right now, I would say 2. I feel comfortable about 2 going in the first round, and that's Fernando Mendoza of Indiana and Dante Moore of Oregon. Originally, I was going to say 3 about a month ago until Ty Simpson of Alabama really fell off a cliff during the month of November and then the early portions of December. He just has not played good football over the past month and a half. So right now, I feel comfortable about 2 guys. And Dante Moore still has a big decision to make. And Fernando Mendoza has another year of eligibility as well. But I think it's fair to assume how well that he has played this season that he's going to come out. But Dante Moore in a similar boat as Ty Simpson, as far as them only having a handful of starts during their college career. So it's not a foregone conclusion that, we're going to get 2 in this draft class. Honestly, it could turn into a 1 quarterback class in the first round anyway, very, very quickly if Simpson and also Moore go back.
A lot there. With Mendoza, now the Giants, I believe, are now holding the first overall pick, so they'll be able to have an auction. The Titans are up there. The Browns and Raiders are in the mix there. There's like 8 teams with 3 wins, so we'll see how that goes. The Titans beating the Browns obviously changed the entire calculus of the first overall pick. Do you believe Fernando Mendoza is a type of prospect that a team is going to want to trade up for?
Yeah, I think so. And you're going to hear the comparisons like Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff, and there'll be some other names. Sam Bradford is another that you'll probably hear just talking about on the field anyway, who was another former number 1 overall pick when he came out. There's going to be teams that are desperate for that level of quarterback play. And if you think about all in their primes, Jared Goff, who I think is still underrated to this day, I think it's fair to assume that he's a top 12 type of quarterback. Kirk Cousins in his heyday during his time in Minnesota, I think it's fair to assume that he was a top 12 to 14 type of quarterback during his prime as well. And then, like I just said with Sam Bradford, he was a number one overall pick when he did come out. So whenever you're talking about quarterbacks that don't have a super high ceiling, a lot of people are going to take it as criticism. And that's not with Mendoza, I would say.
Yeah.
I think he does have a ceiling like a Jared Goff or a Kirk Cousins. And we've seen both of those guys get paid very handsomely in the NFL. Jared Goff has gone on to play in the Super Bowl as well, even though McVay did want to upgrade from him and go on with Stafford. But you can win games with guys like that. So that's not a shot against Mendoza or to say that he doesn't have a high ceiling at all. I definitely think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be trading up or want to trade up for Fernando Mendoza.
And I'll do you one better. If Kirk Cousins' career was available in the draft and you say, we're just going to give you Kirk Cousins, teams are just spending a top 5 pick on that. Like if they say, hey, 12 years of being the 12th best quarterback, 13th best quarterback, there are teams that would Cleveland would sell their soul for 12 years of Kirk Cousins if you could give him to him in 2026. So it's something to watch there. You mentioned Dante Moore. So we had this with Drew Aller last year, a guy who came back, who maybe if he had great interviews and testing could have been a first round pick. We're seeing that more with NIL because you can make $3 to $5 million. And I'm wondering if you're Dante Moore, does it make sense to entertain the idea of taking $4 million to come back? I mean, is he, and I guess you could put Ty Simpson in this boat too. Are they the type of prospect that would be helped by coming back? Have they played? I mean, Dante Moore's a 1-year starter. Ty Simpson's a 1-year starter. Simpson's stuck around for a long time in Tuscaloosa. Dante Moore has been there for 2 years. He started at UCLA under Chip Kelly, who had no interest in being a head coach that year, apparently. But are they the type of prospects where if they come back in 2027, we're talking about them being top 5 picks and they worked something out at the college level?
Well, it's always risky when you're talking about going back to school. And I'm not the greatest at math, but getting $30-40 million
yes.
guaranteed as a top 5 pick is a little bit different than getting $5 to $8 million.
You think Moore could be a top 5 pick?
I think he would if he came out. He's actually my favorite of the group if he was to come out. I have him ranked ahead of Fernando Mendoza.
Okay.
Even though the sample size with Moore is much smaller. I just love the smoothness with this game. I love, the tempo that he plays with, the calm demeanor that he plays with as well. And like I said, the sample size is much smaller than Mendoza, but I think the ceiling is higher than Mendoza. But with Simpson, and I will say this, I think the situation with Simpson and Moore is a little bit different. And I say that because, and I'm not knee deep in the college recruiting, I will say that just because I'm so focused on draft eligible guys. But
I envy you.
I went to plenty of Alabama games. I went to plenty of Alabama games this year, and they were raving about Keelan Russell, the young quarterback that they have there. So it could be a similar situation of where Ty Simpson does go back, and let's say he does get off to a slow start or he does have a patch where he does struggle, and they insert Keelan Russell. Yeah. And now you're talking about your job being gone. Now, I don't know who Oregon has behind Dante Moore. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know who exactly is behind him.
It's a kid, Austin Novosad, who might go to Kentucky with Will Stein.
Okay, so obviously completely different situations as far as who is behind them. So it could be a situation of where Ty Simpson does get Wally pipped next year if he does end up going back.
A fate worse than that, which is what Quinn Ewers had 2 years ago, is you're the starter. You're the starter, and everybody's begging for you.
Yeah,
to not be there. It's like, oh wow, I could have gone to the NFL, or I could have just gone somewhere else for $4 million. I don't know if Ty Simpson is that guy necessarily, but I don't know. I know we're gonna find out there quickly. 2027, you're gonna have Jeremiah Smith. You and I talked about this. Jeremiah Smith. Colin Simmons. You're looking at a generational draft from not quarterbacks, but just every single place. Dylan Stewart. The quarterbacks of 2027 right now, if you had to rank them, where are you going?
Just off the top of my head, Arch Manning. He's obviously
Number
going
one.
to be at the top. Yeah. If Dante Moore does come back, I definitely think he'll be that next guy up. And then you're getting into, players we don't know much about as far as if they're going to improve or not. Lenore Sellers, DJ Lagway, you're getting into that type of tier as far as the guys like that. Then, of course, there's going to be somebody that emerges at a new stop
Always.
as well. There's going to be plenty of players that transfer somewhere, whether it's the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, or whatever. There's going to be somebody that just has takes that next step, that unforeseen development, that next step in their development. So we'll see. There's always some guys that come out of nowhere, like what happened with Dante Moore.
Yeah, absolutely. Or what happened with Cam Ward, or what happened with Michael Penix. Like these guys these guys transfer and they find new homes, new offense, and everyone goes, "Oh, he can do that. That's awesome."
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think everybody keeps talking about the 2027 draft. It's more about getting Jeremiah Smith or one of those D linemen or something like that than it is getting a quarterback. Like I would trade up to have Jeremiah Smith on my roster. That'd be great. Anybody else we haven't didn't name with the 2027 draft who are not quarterbacks that need to be on the radar?
You pretty much named a lot of them. Cam Coleman of Auburn is another.
Ryan Williams.
We'll see if he does end up staying there. Ryan Williams, of course, coming into the season, even though he's been a bit disappointing this year, but I still think the talent is definitely there for him. And, there's always going to be offensive linemen every single year. We named a couple of defensive linemen already. Named Colin Simmons and Dylan Stewart. KJ Bolden, the safety from Georgia, who's a really good player as well. So the 2027 draft looks really, really loaded. Now, I will say this. What I'm interested to see in this year's draft, especially early on, is our team's going to be sitting on those future draft picks, knowing what is upcoming in 2027. So the movement in the first round of 2026, I'm really interested to see if teams are going to be really hesitant to give away next year's first round pick in 2027, knowing what's coming.
I have a pathetic story. I was at Falcons training camp 2 years ago, and I'm driving, and I follow recruiting very heavily, and I knew KJ Bolden was announcing that day. I did not know how close Beaufort High School was to Falcons training camp. I ended up in the traffic jam to get in. And I was like, because I was reading about it one morning because he almost went to Florida. He did commit to Florida State that day, actually. And then he flipped. And then I was like, I'm going to go to KJ Bolden's announcement. I'm just going to stay in this traffic jam. I'm just going to go and just watch this because I've actually never seen one. And then when I'm there, when I like almost was turning, I was like, if anybody asks me what I'm there for, I have no explanation. I'm a huge nerd. That's my explanation. Is I got stuck. I just saw people go to his announcement. I'm the biggest nerd on earth, and I just completely bailed. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't. If you're an unaffiliated party, you can't go to a high school player's announcement. And I just totally bailed. It was a good move by me.
So Raiola was there as well, correct?
Yeah.
Dylan Raiola.
I don't know if he had. I don't know if he was there or that. He definitely wasn't committing that day. It was just KJ Bolden. It was in August of 2 years ago, and then he flipped about a week before. FSU has that a lot. They get really good players. You could do. Unfortunately, this is bad. You could do a Florida State flip team that is really amazing because they had Travis Hunter, famously. They had KJ Bolden, and they had Keldrick Falk at Auburn. Wow. So those are three NFL players that they couldn't close on, and I don't know where else to go with that.
The Seminoles when you have a chance, right?
Yeah, I'm just stating facts. I'm just stating facts. And I was so nice to them on Twitter this morning, saying that Florida State getting screwed 2 years ago was a million times worse than what's going on with Notre Dame. All right, back to football. Back to the NFL. So the draft. Playoffs start in 11 days. We're going to do a couple guys that we need to watch in these playoffs. If you're a team drafting in the top 10 or drafting in the first round, you're saying, I want to watch these guys in the Cotton Bowl, in the Fiesta Bowl, in the National Championship. Give me your first guy.
Well, I had to send you, when you asked me this question, two Miami guys, right?
Yeah.
We have to discuss Miami. So we could talk about both sides.
Let's do
it. Is Francis Maui-Noah, the right tackle for the Hurricanes. One of the best players I've seen when I've been out on the scouting trail so far this year. He's listed at 6'6", 335. I don't think he's going to be quite 6'6", if I had to guess. Probably 6'4", 6'5". He's going to be every bit of 330, 335, though. I think he's a guard on the next level. There's a bit of a mixed opinion as far as what he's going to be on the next level, whether he can stay at right tackle or if he's going to slide inside to guard. And I'm not saying he can't play tackle on the next level. I definitely think he can, but I just think he has more upside inside, especially with how he wins. He's one of those guys that's super strong, has decent feet for the most part as far as in pass protection. But if you slide him inside the guard, man, I think he has Pro Bowl caliber written all over him. I would be comfortable taking him inside the top 15, honestly. There's going to be a lot of teams that are interested in taking him there just because from what I heard, he's going to be an otherworldly tester at the combine as well. So I'm really interested to see which teams value him more so as a right tackle as opposed to an interior guy. But me personally, I like him inside at guard. I definitely think he has more upside there.
Just the way the draft goes now, if he is going to kick inside to guard, does that hurt him 10 spots, 5 spots? How do teams view that now?
It honestly just depends on the team. Honestly, there's some teams that are comfortable taking those interior guys inside the top 15. We saw it last year with Tyler Booker when he went, I believe, number 12 overall to the Cowboys, and he's gone on to be a really productive starter for them right away. And, I think Maui Noah has just as much upside as what Tyler Booker showed during his time at Alabama, and I think he's going to be a much better tester than what Booker was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it honestly just depends on the team.
Yep. All right, let's do Bane.
Yeah, I mean, there's mixed opinions about him, man. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. There's some teams that just are really uncomfortable with the measurables.
With the size.
He's going to have short arms. He's going to have that tweener build. So there's going to be some teams that they're going to be conflicted, whether you beef him up and slide him inside or do you keep him out on the edge. But, I mean, a player I've compared him to endlessly is Brandon Graham. Cameron Jordan is another comparison that some scouts have really reiterated to me as far as what he can be, but you just can't ignore what he continues to do and what he continues to put on tape. And he's one of those players that you really worry about doing that when you get him in the building. I'm comfortable getting a player who I think is a top 10 player in this year's class, and you just let his development play out. I know without question he's going to be able to play inside. He's going to be comfortable playing outside as well. And he's one player I know in this draft can play right away just because of the strength levels that he has, the disruption that he's able to create as well. So, like I said, he's going to be one of those players that is quote unquote polarizing just because of the tweener build and the short arms and just unknowingly exactly where to play him as far as what position. But just don't make the evaluation hard. But that's something that's going to happen during this draft season.
Real quick, on the other side, Akeem Mesidor is just as productive. Although I'll say this. Do you know? So Bane is third in the Power 4 in pressures. Lubin from Louisville is straight right ahead of him. David Bailey at Texas Tech has 15 more pressures, 15, than anybody else in the Power 4. Anybody else? What are we doing? He's Thanos.
Hey, Kev, I tweeted it out, man. Like, watching them on tape they're a threat. They're
Dude,
a serious
I don't
threat.
think people get it. I don't think people get it with Texas Tech.
That defensive line is for real. Lee Hunter, who I love, coming over from UCF, the big nose tackle in the middle. Romello Height is no slouch either. On the other side, I believe he's in the top 10 or 15 in pressures.
Romello Height's the reason Miami didn't make the playoff last year with that strip sack, Cam Ward.
He's been outstanding.
Hey,
their defense is for real.
The people, and I've seen it all over the place, the people who are like, Oregon has the best track in the college football playoff because they're just going to get Texas Tech next round. Good effing luck. Effing luck. And I don't think, because they don't recruit at Georgia's level or even Georgia, Oregon, or Ohio State's level, they probably don't have much depth. They probably don't have 5-star bodies, on the third string defensive tackles, but their upper echelon talent is as good as anybody's in the country. I'm not really sure people have reckoned with that because it's Texas Tech, because we're looking way too much at the logos and not enough at the roster. Their 22 is really good. It's expensive.
I don't think a lot of people have paid a lot of attention to them for whatever reason, but they are for real, man. They are a serious threat to win.
It goes back to
would not be surprising if they're
Jordan,
there right in the end.
Very few people actually follow college football. Just that's why. Why do you think everybody's so obsessed with narratives and they can't. This team, they're always chokers. Oh, really? Or how often it's like, this team played 3 years ago. Oh, cool. They have a different coach, and a different quarterback, and a different team. Everybody's obsessed with logos and brands because they don't watch the games. All right, sorry, I was getting off track.
Very true.
Mesidor, he's going to be 25. He's just as productive as Bane, pressure wise. Or sack wise, he may have more sacks. Bane only has 4.5. He is, in my opinion, maybe not as much an all-around player. What Bane is able to do in the run game, where he's just tracking down guys from all over, and Bane had that pick against Notre Dame and all that stuff, it's a little bit different. Bane's a better all-around player, but Mesidor, productive pass rusher, going to be an incredible guy in the community for a decade, but he's 25. How are teams going to view this?
So before I answer that, I want to tell this quick observation with him. So as I've told you many times, I was there for the Virginia Tech game.
Yeah.
And the last three people leaving the field was Bain, Mesidor, and a lot of people don't know their position coach is Jason Taylor,
Yep.
the Hall of Fame defensive end for the Miami Dolphins. The most intense pregame workout I've ever seen in my life. Like, everybody is dripping sweat. You would think they played an entire game. So that just goes to show you, like, Jason Taylor's doing a phenomenal job with them. And this not just during practice, this is during pregame. Like, everybody's dripping sweat. T-shirt is like they both jumped in a pool. And I'm like, how do these guys have enough energy to go out and actually play a game? But of course, they went on to dominate that game as well. I thought that was one of the most complete performances that they've put together. But Mesidor, he's going to be that guy that probably goes in like the 4th round. I would say he's going to have to be a DPR, a designated pass rusher. But we've seen teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, the Los Angeles Rams take players like this, players that are ready to play right away, whether it's on 3rd down or late passing down situations, and then go on to be productive starters. He's that Jalix Hunt type of mold. Yeah. Now, his measurables are not going to be as good as Jalix Hunt as far as the length, but just talking about that type of role that he's going to play early on.
Agree. And by the way, when you mention the Rams and the Eagles, the thing they do is they get those guys in the building, they develop them. Look at Jalix Hunt and look at the guys that the Rams have developed. Like, they're going to get those Byron Young. They're going to get those guys in the building and they're going to develop them. So for me, it's a geography is destiny type thing. Like, I hope a smart team takes a flyer on Mesidor and he has a 10-year career and I also think he's going to interview very, very well. All right, who's your last guy in the CFP?
It was Caden Proctor. I believe that was the name that I sent you, the Alabama offensive tackle. Another one that's going to be a very polarizing prospect. And like you said, people that don't follow college football very closely, they're always going to scout the helmet. And with Alabama offensive linemen, specifically offensive tackles, the track record has not been good for them recently. So with Caden Proctor, he's another one, 6'7", 365 pounds. He's one of those big, mammoth-sized offensive tackles that's really strong in the run game, very powerful, but doesn't have overly great feet. So speed rushers is something that's always going to give him problems. Even 10 years into his NFL career, speed rushers is something that's constantly going to be able to give him problems. But if he gets his hands on you, you're not going to get past him. And the thing about Caden is that, the weird thing about him is that whenever they play upper-level competition, he always plays his best. But when they're playing lower-level teams or teams that aren't ranked as highly, he does not look good at all. And I go back to the very first game of the season against Florida State. He gave up 7 pressures and a sack in that game. He looked undraftable in that game. But if you look at him against Georgia, against Tennessee, some of these other, Missouri is another, what I thought he played really well for the most part. He always plays to his level of competition. So the thing about him and the big debate about him is, which player am I going to get when I'm drafting him? That's going to be the big debate about Caden Proctor.
Interesting. A couple other names I want to throw at you that I'm sure you've done work on. Caleb Downs, everybody's saying he's playing as well as anybody in the country. He's a safety, but he's all over the place. He's probably going to have a big CFP second round game against either Miami or Texas A&M. Where is he and how do teams view him going into next year?
He's the number 2 player on my big board behind Arvell Reese, his teammate at Ohio State. And once again, it's going to be the whole positional value debate with him. I believe the last safety we've seen go inside of the top 10 was Jamal Adams a handful of years ago.
Wow.
So the thing with him is that it's just, like I always say, man, the draft comes down to hit and misses. And I understand there's a certain preservation for certain positions going at the top of the draft. But at the end of the night, if I was a GM that selected Caleb Downs in the first round, I will feel really good laying my head down at night going into day 2. I feel really comfortable about his evaluation. 2 players he reminds me of, Brian Branch out in Detroit.
Yep.
He reminds me a lot of him. Not quite as physical, but just talking about the role that he could play. And then also Bada Baker, who's gone on to be a really good player for the Cardinals. Those are the 2 molds that I think he has to play on the next level. But the thing about it, Kev, is that he's playing in a defense that is as hard as it gets.
Yeah.
Like, Matt Patricia has a very complex defense, and we've seen him master that defense already. So I just don't think there's a lot of question marks to his resume, honestly. But once again, it comes down to how comfortable do you feel taking a safety inside the top 5 or inside the top 10, which is something that every team is not going to be comfortable with, even though I disagree with it.
All right, time for badasses. I want the best player in the CFP. In the college football playoff. I want just like the guy who's going to dominate everything. He's going to go up on the badass wall, brought to you by Manscaped. Set up your grooming game with precision tools that make you look sharp and feel confident, available at Target. Is it Jeremiah Smith? Is Jeremiah Smith the best player, the badass of the college football playoff?
Regardless of
regardless. Yeah, regardless of year.
Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith is the guy, man. He's Julio Jones, Andre Johnson, whatever NFL comparison that you want to use for him. High-end comp. He's every bit of that. Good. And, every GM that I've talked to, every scout that I've talked to, executive, I mean, that's the first player they bring up. Like, I can't wait till 4 becomes draft eligible. Highly anticipated.
We've seen tanking for quarterbacks. We're going to see it for wide receiver at this time next year. Thank you, buddy.
And no problem. Thanks, man.